Danny, we're gonna do a meeting. Let's do it. All right.
We're gonna do a meeting now.
We're gonna get started, even though Ashley's clock is 4 minutes behind the rest of the world. The national clock is at 3 o'clock, so we'll get started. We'll start off with pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a quorum, consent agenda, we want to be pulled from the consent agenda.
On the minutes?
Yep.
The one typo or correction, I think, border to border, spelling correction on that?
I will look at that before they get.
Okay, that was the only correction I had on those.
I didn't have any, so.
Where was that at?
In the minutes for last month?
Yeah.
Border to border, it was B-O-A-R-D, it should be B-O-R-D-E-R.
Okay. Just need a motion to approve with those edits.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That. Okay, next up, actually gone.
Township
Moving right along.
assistance. There's June and July's reports in here since we did not meet last month. We are still plugging along. We attended the back to school fair at the Avon schools. Got a few appointments made for clothing assistants. Those really will probably show up once we get into August, maybe even September, because they have to go get stuff and then we got to get those back before we start seeing those numbers, but we did do quite a bit of appointments for those. Any questions about township assistance?
You know, it just seems to be as big a number as we've seen in recent years, and just, I don't see any let up either.
No, everything is going up. The cost of utilities is going up, rent's going up every year, so.
Okay. We look like we're okay covering it. So.
Yes, we are,
Yeah, I didn't see
as of
that.
right now, we are still good. Yep,
Yeah, okay.
yep, and we look at those numbers every month, so.
Human resources then.
Human resources report is in here also. The last page, you can see some of our terminations, resignations, retirements, firefighter, HR specialist, the naturalist, and then some pool staff along in there, just getting them off the books. New hires came camp staff in June and extended care in July to start that program up at the end of July. Any questions about those? Alrighty.
All right, thank you. Parks. Sorry. let me just skip on.
It's good to see everyone again. So I will start off with Murphy Aquatic Park. I know last time we spoke in June, I had come to you and told you that we were having a really slow start. That completely turned around third week in June, and we were showing alarming numbers. We are already, you can see from my revenue report, we've already hit our goal for this year and exceeded that goal, and that was the end of July. We're also trending spending a lot less than we had budgeted, which puts us in a really good spot right now. We're really excited about it. I also included in this packet just some analytics in regards to how much money we're making compared to what the weather looks like, and then just showing you kind of what that weather looks like each month, just so you can kind of see what those sweet spots are. But that data also gave us some information on what our average revenue is each day, what our average attendance is each day. So doing these types of analytics, I think, are important for us, just so we have that knowledge in the back of our mind so that we can see, you know, regularly June 14th is a slow time for us, and that way we can plan programming during those time frames to kind of boost up our revenue a little bit. As we move on, PCAR, we hosted our junior master naturalist camp over the summer. And then we've had several field trips coming to the park. We only have one naturalist now. We have not had much luck with that position, so we are kind of reorganizing that position. We do not plan to rehire. You'll see in the budget, at the budget hearing in September, that we plan to have that be more of a part-time position that assists our current naturalists that we have. Because we're finding that we really need that niche and that our programmers are more than capable of doing our nature programming and our programming that we currently have. As we move down to programs was wild this summer. We had so many neat and unique programs that we offered this summer. One of the more successful ones was our Duck the Pool Day. And so I did want to give a shout out to our new programmer that we hired this year, Ryan Benner. And he planned the Duck the Pool Day. It was very unique. We had so many sponsors that came and set up booth space that day. And it was really fun to see the kids kind of stalk these duck people, because at the top of the hour, we did a duck call, and then we dumped more ducks in the pool at the top of every single hour. And so we were able to give out 5,000 ducks. And we also have all of those vendors have committed to coming back next year. And we have several vendors that want to participate next year. Our goal is to double the amount of ducks that we can give out. So that was a really exciting event, and the staff really loved it. The community really loved it. We got so much feedback from that. And so our marketing department is going to include some of the feedback that we've gotten over the summer from some of our programs that we did. As we move on, you can see that the last capital improvement project that we have is updating the upper park. So we've been working with Miracle Midwest. We've been getting quotes back. We're going to be doing some changing up there just to refresh the area. We're expanding it a little bit more with our maintenance staff. So there will be some changes coming here soon with the upper park, but it's about that time that we need to kind of refresh it, fix some of the broken things, and add some new equipment. I would like it to be more ADA and inclusive. So we're going to be adding some features like expression swings where it's parent and child, and also a merry-go-round that is ADA accessible as well. We're also working with Park Foundation to add some nonverbal signage boards over at that park as well. As we go on, youth services. Camp was great this year. Our Lily camp numbers were even a surprise to us. We had our wrap-up meeting with Lily, and they are wanting us to have 300 people because we had to cap it at 275 at that point. But they are pushing for 300 people next year, and I think we will definitely hit it. Our camp numbers were really great. This was the best year we've had so far with camp as far as just how smooth it ran. And it's really becoming very streamlined with the people that we have in staff. And then as we go on to Explore Extended Care, those numbers are also really high too. This was the best start to Explore Extended Care we've ever had. We started off with as many people as we needed. The issue we have now is so many people are signing up for it. We're just continuing to hire for those positions. We're not getting as many in the mornings because some of those schools are only an hour, but we've been working with the school on their redistricting and their new hours. And so you'll see the PM numbers are way higher than the AM numbers, obviously, just because of the time frame. But our middle school, we did extend it to middle school at the request of several parents. And so it's a low number, but we only really need a minimal amount of staff at those different middle schools. And so we're getting a good amount. We're hitting what we need to hit in order to make sure that we are hitting our revenue goals. Do you have any questions for me about anything that's going on?
So the request to go up to 300 from Lily, is that just a staff kind of thing, or what are your limitations?
Right, so it's really staff. So at that point, we were, at the end of June is when we started to get those big numbers that we had in Lily. And at a certain point, we have to cut it off because we have ratios that we need to keep. It is eight 5 to 7-year-olds to every one counselor. And then 7 to 12-year-olds, you can have 10 for every one counselor. And so at that point, we really didn't want to hire for the last 3 weeks of camp. So we did cap it off at 275. But next year, because we want that 300 number, we're going to hire more staff in order to hit that number. But but we felt comfortable capping that at 275. In the past, we've really only done like 220, 230. So this year jumped way higher than we expected.
Good.
Any questions? All right,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, fire's up.
You asked for it now.
Uh,
Good afternoon. So the departures they talk about, speak on that first. We've had a couple in the last couple of months from recruit class. And that's just about having standards. So those departures were making sure that our people are meeting standards before they hit the ground running. And that was what Ashley brought up when she brought up the departures from fire. And if they don't meet those standards, then we're going to hold them accountable to it. So again, those were unfortunate, but needed departures, and it's just about establishing that standard and holding to it from now forward. Right now, we're up nearly 250 runs. As we get busier, that does eliminate time just to babysit people that we may have let through, and we're done doing that. So again, being up nearly 250 runs over 2024, that's putting us on pace to 8,500 plus runs for the year. Again, another increase looming. We've seen some of the departments around us kind of stabilize or even decrease, and we're still moving forward. Our members are continuing to serve with excellence and represent our brand well. We've had other compliments here and there in passing. You can read social media comments. Everybody remains fairly positive on the department as a whole. On the second paragraph, we recently took delivery of replacement engines 142 and 143. They've been in the garage. You've seen pictures of them in social media going back a little ways. There's a few things when they did the visit in Florida that they were delivered without having fixed on the punch list walkthrough. So they're still working on that. I can assure you that Chief Porter and myself have definitely been in contact with fire services and E1 in order to resolve some of those issues. Some of them are just labeling issues. And then today, though, they left the last session they came in and worked on. They left, and today he hits them up with an email saying, "Okay, here's where we're at. Here's the expectation. What's your plans?" And they did respond with a plan, but like he said right before we walked in the room, it seems like whenever they're done working, if they don't give us a return date or a finish date, we need to probably follow up with an email a little quicker, because that's usually the only time we get an answer. Otherwise, we're just hanging out in limbo. And I don't think they're that busy, and they're charging a premium price, so the expectation will again hold people accountable, and that's where we're at. So that's why those are delayed. It's not us dragging our feet as much as it is them dragging theirs. You've also noticed ladder 1 has been out of service, so there's a few things they're trying to couple a lot of that work together instead of just going back and forth. And they referenced the repairs for ladder 1 being also on order with some of the parts that they're needing to fix the engines. So we will get those in. There will be a ceremony. I don't know that there will be cake, but we will announce it and make sure you have an opportunity to be here, and we do that the right way. With the ceremony of 143s, I also plan on having a small open house if we can make all that work to show the remodel. Chief Phipps is beating some heads against the wall with that, for lack of a better term, to try to get the punch list fixed there. We're down to some nuances, but again, they're big enough deals that we are holding payment until those are fixed. So that last check won't be cut until it's fixed, and if we need to, we'll spend the last checks to fix it ourselves if we have to. So we've been working on the 2026 budget. We'll talk a little bit about some of that today. Still monitoring the political climate of SB1. Everybody says they're going to change it. Today, just coming up and giving a simple "hello, how are you doing" was responded with, "We're going to fix it." Yeah, we can hear it, but we still got to operate in that climate and plan for that climate for now. Stage 145 is progressing rapidly. Have any of you guys been by there? Okay, during the working hours, come by. We can walk through. Chief Phipps can go through and tell the stories. We can all walk through together, but he's been intimately involved with it. They're putting up walls right now, starting to close it in a little bit. So what it looked like, it seems like a vast structure. Inside starting to shrink down a little bit as they put the walls up, and you're kind of getting scope on the size of the room, size of the bunks, where the hallways are, how it's going to flow, and the design of the station. So do hit us up. Any of the three of us can walk you through. You can go over there and surely go through yourself. We park in the daycare against the back of the trailer, and there's a slit in the gate. Go inside the trailer. They have hard hats, and then we can go out and walk around a little bit. Don't go after it rains. It's a pretty big mess. So, but again, that's going to further continue to serve our vision statement to safeguard those we serve. People still call and go, what's going in there? There is a sign and a picture on the front that shows the firehouse, but we continue to answer that question. And it's a large structure down 267, and I know Avon Avenue is closed right now. Not many people are traveling that way per se. But when you drive through there, it's starting to become pretty unmistakable that it's going to be a firehouse. As they close in the doors, I was saying that in conversation, they said it's going to speed up. Chief Phipps was informing me that some of it will actually slow down. There'll be a lot going on, but the timing of the trades, things that are on back order, that's where the slowdown will be. So even though it appears to be reaching that finishing stages, there's still going to be a lot of work to do and some nuances and door replacement and things like that. Some temporary heating and cooling as they get into the winter months too. So, but again, they're on the ball. They're been ahead of schedule on a lot of things. As they close up, some of it's not in their control, and also the flow of where they're going to stage things, where they're going to put it, a little bit landlocked on that. So they're kind of trying to time some of their orders the best they can with the trades. Moving into the next couple pages in training, I'll just kind of be brief on those. In training, what I want to highlight is on the training grounds for the June report, and I gave you guys June and July, but on the second page, you'll see training grounds and classroom. We had Wayne Township out in June. We did some live fire training with them. They came to our fire academy, and our people ran the fires. They trained their people. It wasn't mutual aid training necessarily, as more of them just looking for a different environment. And so now instead of us always going and knocking on other people's doors to train, people are coming to us now. And that's the whole goal, is when you have structures like we have and facilities, they start drawing people in, and you start serving the people you play with in practice. And it's good to be able to reciprocate what people have done for us over the years. On the third page, again, you look at the training grounds as Danville gets up and running. Same thing. We had live fire training with Danville. Our people ran it. Their training cadre came out, was training some of their new employees and taking them through a small recruit class, and kind of the culmination of them joining their ranks. So again, in July, more training where people are seeking out our usage of our facility. But again, we still run our place. Onto the next page for EMS. You can go up, right there. Chief Weiniger's been reaching out to the extended care facilities. So far, she met with 3 of the directors involved in patient care transfers, EMS personnel, and bariatric patients, and the challenge for transporting patients that are exceeding our cot limits and our dimensions. There's no real answer for that. There's people that put in, departments will put in the need for bariatric cots, but a lot of the bariatric cots are manual. So whenever you get a manual cot, that just means we're lifting them. And, that's not ideal. That doesn't solve the issue. And a lot of times where our ER docs are going is kind of treating them in place, and some of those are just not transports depending on what's going on with them. And again, it's drilling that down with the ECFs and making sure they understand their service to their expectations. And Chief Weiniger stays on the ball with all of that, whether it's with the hospital, the ECFs, or even community prep medicine. Appreciate her for that. The rest of it, I'll let you guys go through. Getting into fire prevention. You'll see June to July, the fire inspections have bumped up again as Doug gets in and gets moving and integrates himself in from the police side to the fire side. The inspection numbers will start going back up like they did before with Tony Smith here, who has since gone on to Whitestown. As Doug's falling in, you can see the increase from 123 to 142. We should be seeing those 140s, 160s, and continue getting into all of the businesses in our area. Division training notes in July. Doug just passed his Part 107 exam to become a licensed drone operator with the FAA licenses. That's also led to now our crew coming in. And as we talk about opportunities of people coming in and training with us, we had FAA representatives on our training grounds going through our capabilities with our drone pilots and what the county's doing. And Levi just informed me earlier today that some of the questions they had for the FAA representatives, they didn't know the answer, so they were hitting their contacts up who informed the representatives, well, that's your job. So some of the things have changed. And again, the education, as we create these opportunities and bring people in, we're learning from them, they're learning from us, and then they're also learning more about themselves. And we do the same thing. That's an opportunity to reflect and see how people are doing things and decide if we want to do things different or if what we're doing is probably a better practice. So good reflection, good time for that. Moving into Pub Ed, the thing I want to highlight on Pub Ed is more toward the last pages there. As before we get to the run stats, they on the events and the people reached. She and we were able to reach upwards of 4,000 people in total through June and July, between National Night Out, the events that we hosted, the carnivals at the settlement, attending the opening for the Farmers Day markets, things like that. So again, reaching out, touching the community, educating them, giving out, making them aware of what we offer for them. Last 2 pages on the run sheets, a couple of quick highlights. Chief Porter in a later presentation may hit on some of the highlights and reasons for this. One of the things we won't hit on, you'll see ladder 149 was in both months was diminished down to 79 and even 31 runs. That's because ladder 141 is not ladder 141. It's actually an engine right now. He's been working with dispatch on putting them on different runs, kind of evening out the burden between them and engine 1 until we get the ladder back. So that's being addressed, but what you will notice as well is on ladder 144, bump from 151 to 183. So they're being burdened a little bit more with the lack of having the other ladder. So we're putting some heavy runs on them. But even when the ladder comes back, that's probably going to settle into that 130, 140 range, I would say, that what you're trending right now.
Yeah, somewhere 140 to 160 probably.
Okay. So again, a lot of runs on a rig sitting by itself. And we'll get into that here later. But as you look, incidents year to date for June and July, we're up 234 and 247 respectively. So again, increasing at a rapid rate. Into the billing, we're about 1.3 million collected year to date in July. The rest of that report you can go over. I know we've had some questions about how that report reads. It'll be included each month. And I know Chief Weininger has had some independent conversations to explain what the billing is and how the report reads. So I won't go into that, but if you ever have questions on that, on our collections, let me know. We're anticipating that to this year be around 2.4 mil, but I anticipate that being 2.5 to 3 million moving up as they get established. So being at 1.3 right now year to date and just starting to ramp up in January and working simultaneously with MedBill, we've seen a lot of positive impact. One, the amount collected and coming in is positive. Number 2, the amount we pay out in fees. Before the structure was the money would come in, we would pay all of the fees back out. So it'd be money in, money out. What they do is they take that off the top and then send the residual to us. And we're still receiving more money at a faster rate than we were at the other company, but we don't have the bills going out. So what we used to budget for EMS billing, we don't have to budget anymore. But what we've done, because we still have some stuff with the other company, is we've got a small budget that you'll see in the coming months, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. We were able to start wiping that out. Any questions for fire? It's a little shorter.
Okay, up next in old business, the State Board of Accounts audit.
We were hoping that we could talk about our State Board of Accounts audit today in the meeting, since we had our final interview or meeting with them to close the audit for this year. As of the email that we received yesterday, they anticipate that our audit will be published within 2 days. We just checked prior to this meeting. It is not published, therefore I cannot speak about the audit publicly. I believe you all have been privy to the email that was sent out by the State Board of Accounts, so you're already aware of that. I would anticipate that we'll be able to follow up on that next month. But yeah, we do anticipate that within, by the end of this week, that should certainly be published online and available for review.
Okay. Then the WCCD condemnation.
Yes, we've talked about this one previously. We actually do have our court date set for tomorrow morning. I've been working with counsel. Again, I will stand strongly and with the idea that we're not asking for anything outrageous, just fair use of the property that we already own, and that's where we've been from the word go, and that's hopefully the opportunity that we're going to have to speak in front of the judge tomorrow to say the exact same thing. But again, we'll circle back up with this in upcoming meetings again, so we can make sure that we're all on the same page as what the final outcome is. But yeah, we are looking forward to moving on from this. We've spent a lot of man hours now just preparing for this and to making sure that we have our ducks in a row for our day in court.
Is there a likely outcome, a likely?
A couple ways you can look at it. There's almost any municipal taking is preferred or is deemed reasonable. This is not a municipal taking, this is a utility taking. We have a file that has two different entities, one WCCD and one the town of Avon, saying two different things about the necessity of the take, and we are the child in between. And so I think we will let the judge know that, hey, maybe resolve this alleged necessity before you take property. You guys technically approved this, but I'm sure it's a fine detail that was not remembered, and we had to be reminded. We already laid off 50 feet of right-of-way on the opposite side of the street that already exists. So this would be hearsay, but the town has said that can be used and not have to take the other 20 on this side. So there's a necessity question there. I think if we could just get an answer, kind of talked across each other, we could just get an answer on being able to be certain that we can have access to that land whenever you decide in the future what's needed, probably be the only question we have hanging out there. We never got an answer to that when we presented it. We got a little bit of mumbo jumbo about them assigning it to others and allowing others in that easement, and then I think we got satisfactory response about them putting structures in it. So we're really just down to, we can't come from the west, there's a creek. North and south are owned by other parties, and so if they could just be clearer with us about getting into the space.
Right.
But we are being put in between this debate of two other groups that there's been credible information on both sides. And they're talking through us, and it's really not our place. They need to talk to each other about whether or not this is needed out at the corner.
But then the situation is, the town of Avon's not a party to this litigation, right?
Not yet. I mean, every take is its own. I think they're trying to stair step it down, and they have not resolved the issue as to whether or not it is needed there. Avon has shown us information that says it is not needed. Others have said it is needed. Perhaps firm up your need before you have a take, and we have to go through this. It's a little bit chicken and egg, perhaps, or, well, we've already taken it, you might as well do it. I don't know. We'll find out more tomorrow. I don't think we have a real huge issue as to the valuations. We have not been giving away easements when asked, but we were not fighting hard over the valuation. There was a lawsuit several years ago at Murphy's Act. So that's 25 plus years ago, where there was a reported decision valued high. We never got an answer when we presented that to them too. It's like, hey, how 25 years after the fact have values kind of stagnated or gone down? It's like, well, we've complied with the law with our offer. Okay. So there's been discussion back and forth. It's not been closed doors. I mean, we've talked at cost. And we may talk some more after tomorrow. We may hear a little more after the session tomorrow on this week.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
I'll retract the comment. Upcoming budget dates.
So we had these budget dates on our agenda at the last meeting that we had. If you will remember back, we have changed the October date to October 16th since we've had that meeting. So I wanted to make sure that we had all of these dates published and posted again, just to make sure that you all, as well as anybody watching from home, there would be no question as to when our meeting dates are as we continue into budget season this year.
Any questions on
Sure.
that? That's what I was done too.
We're all good.
Yeah, that's good too.
Okay. Good, and then apparatus arrival.
Just touching very briefly on this one, since the chief just talked about it, but yes, we have received 2 of the engines. These were the 2 engines, if you'll remember, that one was purchased prior to Danny or I being here within the township. One of them was purchased shortly thereafter. There was a price difference between the 2. We did receive them on the exact same day, so that is still us being at the mercy of the manufacturer. We've certainly shared and discussed frustrations with that previously. The important part is we have the trucks here. We're going to get them in service as soon as it is feasible and responsible to do. And then they will hopefully have a good long service life with us here for the fire department. So.
Any question on that?
Okay. Station 142 land purchase.
Similar conversation. We've talked about this several times in here before. We have completed the land purchase for the eventual relocation of Station 142. It is just south of the railroad tracks, the railroad track bridge on Ronald Reagan Parkway, the piece of property that we all discussed previously. That purchase has been completed. So we don't have the deed for the property yet, but all of the title work has been done with the companies to make that happen. So.
Okay. All right. New business, fire department salary survey.
So this one, there's several layers to this, so bear with me. You'll remember looking back when Chief Brock and I were first in our positions, we talked about scaling back some of the different stipends and the layers of money that was available that was going into firefighter and paramedic salaries here within the fire department. We, coming into this, needed to make sure that we had a solid foundation that we could build off of to move forward. So Chief Brock scaled everything down. We've had a lot of discussions about, how raises are going to be built from that point moving forward. We're to the point where we've done the things that we need to provide a good, solid salary competitive with other entities for our firefighters and our paramedics. In that same time frame, we've put our administrators for the fire department on the back burner, and we've gotten ourselves in a different situation where now I'm going to Danny's office saying, we have to fix this because it's not right. And the problem that we have is right now, the way the salary structure is, depending on your rank, depending on your certifications or your licenses that you may have, we have shift firefighters who are making more money than some of our administrators. As you all know, when you become an administrator, there's a certain amount of additional responsibility that you're taking on as an administrator. And typically there's a salary that goes along with that that's going to offset that extra responsibility that you have as an administrator. The way we are currently right now today, we have several individuals within this organization that if we had an administration vacancy and we promoted from within, individuals would take a pay cut to come into the office. And I don't think that's right. I want to get that fixed. And what I would like to do for the administration, and you'll see that as we get into our budget workshop meetings coming forward, instead of having all of the different layers of stipend on top of stipend on top of stipend to become a chief, I want to have administrator salaries where the stipends stop when you come off shift. Once you come into the office, we're going to have a salary that is built for the position that an individual would be accepting. As we've discussed salaries previously, it was mentioned that we would like to see salary comparisons, salary surveys done. And so what we've done is, I have paper copies. I know some of you have digital over there. If anybody needs a hard copy, I do have these available to you. We reached out to different departments to find out where their salaries are at. We tried to find departments that were as close as we can in population, employee, firefighter, paramedic numbers, run numbers. Again, trying to look at all the different variables so we can give a fair and accurate apples to apples comparison to the best of our ability. Every department is going to be a little bit different, right? You'll notice that we don't have any departments that we've compared to from Hendricks County on our list. That was done intentionally. We have a department here in Hendricks County that is currently facing a federal lawsuit from their employees because of alleged FLSA violations. I have strong reason to believe that depending on the outcome of that federal lawsuit, we have at least one other department in Hendricks County that is already planning on changing the way that they pay their employees based on the result of this other litigation. I'm confident, based on talking with our staff and having conversations with our union, that we are in fact paying people correctly. That being said, we excluded any comparisons with the other Hendricks County departments because there's too much mud in the water with looking at those right now. If you look at the departments that we did compare to, and you look at the county population page that we'll discuss on a separate topic here in a few minutes, you'll see that the departments that we are comparing to are counties and areas that are just above us and just below us in actual resident population. And then again, we also tried to look at the amount of runs, the amount of employees, the amount of stations, all of those other things as well. To try to make a already long story brief here, as we flip through the pages of the chart that we have, again, you can look at population, runs, stations, or all things that we compared to. We have all of these different departments listed on there, and then at the bottom of at least this second page here, you can see where we are with our station in comparison. Some of them are above us in population or runs. Some of them are above us in stations as well. Others are below us in each of those categories. So again, trying to demonstrate that where we are compared to some of these departments that are a little bit larger, a little bit smaller, so forth and so on. As we get to the bar graph page, the first bar graph page, we got the fire chief, the deputy chief, division chief, and battalion chief. You will notice that from the fire chief, deputy chief, and division chief, those are administrative ranks. The battalion chief and below is going to be the shift ranks. Once we get to the battalion chief and below, on the next page after that one, you will see that where our salaries are compared to the average, we're right on par, pretty much where we need to be. Some of them are a little bit above, some of them are a little bit below, but we're right there on the average compared to those other departments. When you look at the three administrative ranks, that's where you'll see the larger difference. The fire chief especially is a more significant difference between even the low category, the lowest of the departments we compared to where we are with our department here. And again, that's what I'm trying to focus on. We've backburnered our administrators. I want to make that right and get them back to where we are competitive. My fear is, again, we have a strong administrative staff. We have the right people in the right positions. If one of them were to be lured away, either by the idea of retirement or another department that's waving a little heavier purse at them, I want to be competitive to not only retain the employees that we have, but if we need to be able to recruit people, whether from the inside to get them to come off of shift, or if we have to look outside, we want to be able to get the right people in these right positions to keep the progress going forward with what we've already got. Flipping over to the next page, the firefighters and paramedics is the title of that one. Again, if you look where Washington Township is, the reddish, pinkish colored bar, we're right where we are, need to be as far as the average with a lot of these other departments. The only category that we're noticeably above would be our probationary firefighters. So those first year firefighters would be the only area that we're noticeably above. All of the others, we're right on the mark with the average with those other departments that we are comparing to. The last page of this little presentation that we do have here is Steve's favorite page, the actual numbers that we're looking at. And this one really tells the story when you look at the actual numbers of these departments, again, that are a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. When you compare the actual salary numbers from these departments, it's pretty easy to identify that, one, we do have battalion chiefs that are making a good amount of money more than our division chiefs, so people rank above them already. But then you can also see the disparity between other fire chiefs and administrative staff of similar sized departments versus where we are currently. So a lot of food for thought there, a lot of things that I'm going to ask that you take a look at, ask questions, try to digest this the best that you can, because we are going to be coming to you with some different numbers, and it is going to look different. Instead of all of those layers upon layers of stipends for our administrative staff, I'm going to come at you with simply just a larger number than what we've had at the bottom line before, to try to make up the difference between some of this and to try to intentionally create some separation between our shift personnel and our administrative personnel. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have right now. If not, we'll certainly be looking at this and talking about this again more in our next budget workshop.
So if you look at the averages,
Yes.
Are those administrative salaries above where they should be? I mean, in terms of what we're going after?
I think where it should be is well, the easiest way to answer. I mean, how do you determine where this salary should be? And that's the reason we do the salary comparisons is we have one fire chief in the state that is, I understand, making $220,000. Is that where that should be? My opinion might be different than others. I think most of us in this room I cringe when I hear that number, but that's a decision that his political board determines, not me. So that is what it is. And that is why we try to go through the effort of finding as comparable departments as possible, because that's going to help you all hopefully make the decision of, are we where we should be? I don't want to have the highest paid fire chief in the state. That's not the goal that we're looking for. I want to have a fair salary for all of our staff, from the fire chief all the way at the top to the newest person that we have on the job. I hope that we're compensating all of our employees fair, and I hope that they feel that way, that we are treating them fair. But having the highest paid or the lowest paid is certainly not where we want to be. I'm perfectly happy trying to land somewhere right in that midline, which is where we have our shift personnel I feel where they need to be. I would like to get there with the administrative staff, though. I think that would.
And so these averages are averages of the departments that we have chosen to.
All of these
compare.
departments that we have listed on here,
Okay.
we were able to get their current numbers for this year and look at those. Again, trying to make as much of an apples to apples comparison as possible. Again, some are a little higher in this category versus that category. Some are a little lower as well.
And all these numbers were 25 salaries, where we are giving across the board a 3% raise. Others are giving 5, 7, 10% raises too. So maybe in a year or two, we'll be behind the ball again and have to look at this again, just because we're not giving as big of a raise as others are this year.
But
And who knows what's going.
we've been in that 5 to 7,
Yes, we have in the past, yes,
In-
definitely. Yeah.
not
but-
that far,
Yeah.
far back.
So that's in some of the consideration too of the salaries, is knowing that those other departments are going up 5 to 7%, 10%, some of them. So that's where we got our numbers from too, for 26.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I think this is an objective way to look at it when you're comparing kind of apples to apples, seeing population, call volume and number of stations. I think that's,
And in a perfect world, we could pull 5 fire departments and, they were all the same size, all the same runs, and we all made the same amount, but unfortunately it's not. So we try to go with just the closest that we thought were similar to us.
Which is a kind of a question, and it doesn't particularly pertain to the salary. It's more from what makes Washington Township unique is with a population of 60,000, we've got 8,500 runs. And that doesn't really correlate with,
Anything else? Yeah.
with some of the other larger communities. And,
Steve, without talking on salaries, what you're looking at is demographics, right?
right,
And it's who's moving here. We have a lot of assisted livings. You gotta ask yourself, does Fishers, Noblesville, and Bloomington have the same thing? Those are high frequency runs. We have over 55 communities. Do they have the same thing? Where is their population coming from? When you look at Bloomington, they are the metropolitan area. We're not, we're the suburbs, and people come to the suburbs from the city. We're by the largest city in the state, the capital, right? So we're receiving people from a whole different lifestyle, where Bloomington is a more rural area that has evolved to be a little more urban in some areas. Fishers and Noblesville, it is what it is, right? They're coming from Carmel, just outside of Indianapolis, and they have chosen, based on their taxes and their structure and their client base up there, that, hey, we're gonna put up an imaginary wall that if you cross here, you're gonna pay to live here. And you don't have that as you cross the wall to come out west. So yeah, when you look at the runs per capita, it's a different demographic. When you look at White River, 52,000 people versus our 60,000, I mean, they're on the south edge of Johnson County. It's a little different. They're bordering right there by Center Grove.
Right.
And Center Grove's a whole lot like Carmel. But to comparison to Bargersville, it's a much smaller department, because White River's picking up a lot of that slack for them. So yeah, I mean, that's to answer your question. It's it's demographic based. It's just based on our geographic location and who's moving here. And people are a little more apt in your metropolitan areas, in your urban areas, to call 911 quicker than in your rural areas, where they're gonna let things ride a little bit. They're not gonna call 911 quick. They're gonna phone a friend or just let it happen, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
So.
The other side of it in relation to run reporting, and that is, you look at the areas that are near each other, and they've effectively and appropriately have staffed their departments and grown to meet the needs of those areas. So where we're looking at it, and we're currently 4 stations, looking at opening 5, and having those discussions of proper deployment and proper locations of our stations, and that our neighbors aren't necessarily yet, whereas in some of those areas they are. So again, you may have a little less of a run impact in that of those in-between areas of departments. So.
okay. Any other questions?
I do want to thank Ashley for putting together all of the graphs for it. Makes it easier to read. I joke, only half jokingly mentioned Steve likes the numbers, but you like to analyze those a little bit closer. For me, looking at those different color bar graphs certainly tells a good story as well. And I do appreciate you putting that together for us, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
Okay, Senate Bill 1.
So we've very redundant today. We've talked about this a lot in the last several months. And I wanted to share with the board publicly and officially, I've had a lot of opportunities, several opportunities over the last several months to attend different meetings, either as a guest in the audience or as a speaker on a panel in front of a group. And I've tried to take advantage of as many of these opportunities as possible because it gets me an opportunity to make statements on behalf of Washington Township or ask questions directly to state elected officials that have influence and power over what we know as Senate Bill 1 or SEA 1. It's to the point now where Representative Thompson, he can answer our questions before we ask it because we've hit him with the same question so many times. Representative Thompson, Representative Sturwald, Senator Clark have been very open. They, as I continue to tell people, they continue to answer my phone calls when I call them. They don't just automatically send me a voicemail yet. So I hope that dialogue continues. I certainly appreciate them for that. But I have been pointing out different things to these different groups that I've been talking to. And that's what these two population charts that I had put in the packet are in reference to. You all only got page 1. I do have the complete document for both of them, just in an attempt to try to save some paper for anybody who's printing these off. I didn't include all of the other pages on there, but I think when we talk about lit and where we stand as Washington Township, it's important to realize kind of the magnitude and the population in which that we serve. We know that there's 1,010 total townships across the state of Indiana. Washington Township, Hendricks County, we rank number 24 out of over 1,000 townships across our state. We're by no means the largest. North Township in Lake County more than doubles our township population. But when you look all the way down at the bottom of that list, we've got a township in our state that is listed according to these 2022 population numbers that we have. They're listed at a population of 30 people. In my conversation with our elected officials at the state level, how can we come in with a cookie cutter bill and expect a township with 154,000 residents and a township with 30 and expect everybody to fit in that the same? That just, in my mind, I just can't. I've tried. I continue to try to wrap my head around how that works, and I'm not coming up with it. In addition to that, just for giggles, I took our 2022 population estimate that we have, our population number that we have, and I went ahead and added it to the county population. We know that there's 92 counties in the state. Hendricks County ranks number 8 in 2022. We have reason to believe that we might surpass Tippecanoe County when the next census comes out, but as of 2022, we were ranked 8th. If Washington Township by ourselves were a county, we would rank 28th in total population of the 92 counties in the state. And that was surprising to some of the elected officials that I've been speaking with, because it's kind of a different perspective that they hadn't really considered before. And as we talk about towns and cities and these entities that have larger than 3,500 total population, they can administer their own lit. And the fact that Washington Township, who would be 28 in county population if we were a county, the fact that I'm going to have to go to Hendricks County every year with my hand out, that's not a good way to do business. And fortunately, again, our state elected officials have been very receptive to these conversations. They keep assuring me that they're going to do what they can to try to fix this for us, to make sure that we have the funds that we need. Obviously, the conversation we had when Mr. Peters was here, some of those numbers look very grim for the future of Washington Township. And I certainly don't want to have to scale back the amenities and the resources and the things that we're providing to our residents right now today, because the state came in with a cookie cutter bill that they expect all of us just to be able to magically fit into. And so I wanted you, the township board to know that these are the things that I've been going out, and anybody who's willing to invite me to sit down and talk, they've been hearing this from me. Sometimes the people that don't even want to hear it have been hearing it from me, but it's important, I think, for this information to get out there, for people to have an understanding that this is real. And we're going to have a lot of difficult conversations and decisions that we have to make moving forward if we don't get this fixed. And again, I applaud the 3 state elected officials that I've been in front of a dozen or more times now, because they continue to listen to me. They continue to have back and forth dialogue. I do hope that next spring, as we get into session, that we really do come up with a way that we can fix this so that it is tenable for us all moving forward. So,
I appreciate that they're acknowledging that, oops, this doesn't work. Have they offered, even off the cuff, any possible solution or a possible way to do it? Or is that way too premature for them to even utter those words?
there's different ideas that are kind of bouncing around, I think, in some individuals' heads. But again, that would just be one person out of all of the House of Representatives. So I think it's probably early to start throwing out different ideas. Certainly a lot of different conversations have been had about, maybe we come up with a if this then that, and maybe that's based on population. Maybe it's, again, there's so many different possible options out there. I don't know that it would be appropriate just to kind of shoot from the hip because I certainly don't want to sound like I'm trying to put words into anybody else's mouth as far as any conversations that I've had with
other than the disproportionate sizes or the size that Washington Township is. Have we offered, or is there anything that we can offer, I guess maybe at this point, other than just bringing it to their attention that, hey, this just doesn't work for the size of population that we have?
What I have offered and what I continue to offer is an opinion. Again, whether they want it or not, but no, they've been gracious, and they have been asking me, hey, if we did this, what do you think that would look like for you guys? And we're just Washington Township, right? What does that look like for this North Township? And Lake County might be completely different. What I think is grand, they might think is ridiculous.
Sure.
The same could be true for the township with 30 people. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to have the conversations with the legislators because it is important for us to come up with a plan that we can work with moving forward, because we have a lot of really good things going for us here in not just Washington Township, but in Hendricks County in general. We are regularly in the top 5 in the fastest growing counties in the state. Certainly we're doing something right. And I know that they want to talk about property tax reform, and there's so many people that are upset with their property taxes. People are moving out to Hendricks County for a reason. They like what we have going on out here. They like the schools that we have. They like that we have competent professionals in public safety. They like our park systems and the different amenities that we offer to the families. And so that's just, again, some of the conversations we've been trying to have with these different officials. Yes, property tax reform, like we all want to pay less, of course, but we have a significant number of people in our county that are choosing to live here, that are moving out here, even with the property taxes the way they are right now today. And they're accepting that because in their minds, it's worth it because of the amenities and the services that we provide here.
Do we know, like with Senate Bill 1, are the townships sort of the target, or are these issues with the option of lit and all these things school, corporation, and town and city issues as well?
Certainly school corporation is awfully concerned about a lot of the verbiage that's in Senate Bill 1 as well. The cities and towns, I'm not trying to make it sound like they're not concerned about it, but they have a little more flexibility in controlling their own fate with some lit options that they would have that schools and townships aren't privy to.
Don't have, right.
So again, this was just to get you all up to speed. I've been out there screaming it from the rooftops, but obviously I want to make sure that you, the board, are hearing the same things that I'm saying. Obviously, if you have different opinions or conversations or things that I'm missing, that I can add that to my list of things to scream about in the future and moving forward. But I'm gonna keep doing exactly what I'm doing right now, and that's finding opportunities to get myself in front of people because this is an important topic, and we need to make sure that we're doing what we can so that we can continue to provide the services and the amenities that we have to our constituents here.
Thank you. Okay, fire department infrastructure and staffing plans.
I'm not going into the maps yet, Ashley, but okay, good. Good. So, solutions for them. Yeah, I told them, the people who want to annex this, we're going to lead into this talk. They're going to annex this, but not plan to do coverage, or cover the area they annex. That's probably a violation of your constitution of taxation without representation, right? So they could give us that back if somebody chooses to annex and take the money and then not provide a service, and we continue to cover it and plan for it and be responsible, then, well, we should probably be able to take it back. That did kind of open a couple of their eyes, and being school teachers and attorneys, they listened to that and kind of reflected that how did they miss that before, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. So moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit today about hiring, in light of Senate Bill 1, building, and the deployment of what we're going to hire and build and how that works. We're going to start with people. Chief Porter will come up and talk about the operations and how that deployment will work. Chief Phipps will come up and talk about the cost associated with that infrastructure change and what will happen. In our last meeting, the words township will cease to exist, kind of a shocking thing. And I think you guys have kind of walked out of here holding your jaw, and picked your jaw up off the floor. And I think Bellamy, whenever he spoke as to Jeff Peters' words, had some uncertainty on what we do moving forward. Should we move forward? Is there danger in moving forward? And he and I have since had a talk, and the solution was, let's go back to Jeff Peters and let's get his true words and true thoughts on all this. And the last sentence there on this email that's up on the screen, therefore, if a fire station needs to be financed to properly serve citizens, the reluctance to issue bonds on fear of non-repayment should not be an issue, as the likelihood of failure to repay properly secured property tax bonds is remote. There's some explanation about that in the body above. You guys can read that for yourselves. I've shared that with Mr. Bellamy. So before we move on with everything else, are we in line with the fear of default and okay before I start with the whole plan?
I think things that I am concerned about is that certainly we haven't had this much shakeup since the tax cap came in. We've gotten very comfortable with how to operate and know how to navigate through both procedure and law. And now we've got something brand new, and there's, the beaten path is not real clear in front of us. On principle, everything that's in there is correct, that the state of Indiana has set up a framework for where creditors can't not be paid back. And on the flip side of that, or implied in that the taxpayer who needs that service, needs that fire station, needs that school expansion, whatever is funded by that bond, isn't going to have it foreclosed upon and lose that service. So the person that pays for it, the person that has the debt levy placed upon the property, will have the structure there in their service area. I think what we probably need to do internally is just look at our lending documents and look at whenever we finance things, just read it a little more closely, because the statute's not the same anymore. And even in light of not the current situation, but post December 31st, 2027, and I think the deadline is summer of 27 for the council to decide what they're doing. We'll know more then, but I don't see any reason you've identified a need. It's not, the heat maps aren't getting any cooler, so that 8,500 calls per year, that's the referendum. That's the vote, where those calls are at. So they're still calling you. So there's still a demand within the public, no matter what the assembly does.
So with that said, I'd like to speak on people, one of the questions Shane asked is, when does it stop? When does the hiring stop? When do we level off? And we put that plan together. And then Senate Bill 1 came. That plan still doesn't change. The need to serve is still there. The need to respond is still there. What we did is went in and said, was there any fat in our plan? Because we said over 40 people in total in that plan between now and 2029. That included in 27 and 29 doing levy appeals to, I think that would have netted us upwards of $4 million doing those levy appeals. Well, those tools and vehicles go away. Currently, they go away. So how do we make it work? Well, he put his forecast together. We looked at everything. We threw 12 people in. We threw 15 people in. We looked at it with no lid. We looked at it with lid. With lid, it's survivable in the current climate. Is there risk? There's always risk. There's risk in not doing it. There's liability in not doing it. There's people like Ms. McGlone who, when she came up and spoke for us over at the Avon Town Hall, and then we awarded her with her husband present that she did CPR on for 8 minutes down in Fives area. There's risk in that, especially when you buy property and choose not to move. In this case, we have the property, it's being built, we're moving forward. That takes care of the area in our coverage map. But now we need the people to put there. We've already ordered the engine, it's coming, it'll be here in 27. That one's the next one coming. That one went from 700,000 to 800,000 to 1,048,000. But again, it's signed for it, it's coming. Now we need butts and seats to serve that community. We can continue to do what's been done in the past and play chess and move our chess pieces, but we need the people. So we were looking at 15 per rig. That's what we normally hire because we need the floats and room for vacation, things like that. We trimmed that for this go around to 12 because we did have positions when I came in that we didn't fill in the EDO position. So we have 3 people in the float pool right now that can be allocated toward that. We're okay to hire 12, which is 4 per rig per shift. That's your 12 people. And we're okay with being a little more precise on that. Those 12 people needed, that process should have started already. Should be on, or should be happening now. We have to do physicals, we have to do ladder climbs, we have to make their offer, they have to go through physicals, they have to go through sites, they gotta be cleared by PERF, or local pension board, then they gotta be cleared by PERF, then we can set a start date. A lot of work goes into that. The last thing I wanna do is waste your time, but more importantly, waste their time and everybody else in the room if we can't move forward, if there's a fear and we can't do these things. So people fit. It's already in the budget. We've ran our budget numbers. We've included other things the township asked us to put in as far as salaries go and some projections and ideas. Everything fits. Everything's being presented and talked about today fits in our current climate. And that's just deploying the extra $350,000 that was already secured by your past levy appeals. So we'll deploy that money, and that would be the only increase on taxes. Everything else is status quo based on current outlook. So hiring the people fit, the 3% raise fits, the salary adjustments fit, depending on where you guys go with those. And more importantly, the bonding of the station fits. So we do need staff to manage them. The staff would need to grow, but we can forego that because more importantly, we need to trust our management, and our management staff already on the street. We've been doing a lot of movement lately and training them. So right now, we don't need to look at the details and the nuances of what happens in the office. We've got that. We've decided as a staff that we have that. We're fine to manage it with our battalions and our officers. But those 12 people coming in, they will fill the engine at 145s when it opens. We have the engine ordered that I told you will be here in 27. So what do we do in the meantime? Well, it takes 143s and 142s to reserve status when we put the new engines in that we currently have on hand on site. And we'll take engine 143 and put it in service at 5s until the new engine shows up, because it'll be one of our 2 reserves. It'll serve as the frontline piece, and it'll sit down there next to a medic, and then we'll have the engine ladder battalion at Station 1 whenever they come out of recruit class. There'll be a short period of time while the class finishes up that there'll be some overlap where we take engine 1 and move it down there to cover when the station opens, and then whenever the class comes out a couple months later, we'll start full-time down there with an engine and have properly placed apparatus around the rest of the county. Or the township, sorry. The township, that's the size of the county.
That's right.
So again, we've touched on that. So these 12 employees are just the start of appropriate staffing. I want to touch on briefly, we also talked about bringing 15 more in next year. That's a next year conversation. We'll look at that in a new climate. We don't need to go into that today. Just know that 15, that's your finish line, and that's where it stops. That 15 puts another engine by a ladder. That 15 is covering our township in whole. That 15 plus our medics will make up the sustained personnel that we use moving forward. Unless they start building vertical and we have to start putting substations in places, our population's our population. Our land is our land, and it's going away. It's going to be fully built out. They're still predicting that by 2030, last I heard. So they think we're going to be fully built out by 2030. We need to be thinking ahead and be ahead of that curve. So that's why we're so aggressive on the hiring. Is there risk in that? There's always risk in it. There's risk in hiring right now. Just like we learned, we had a 5 and 10 year plan when we came in. We did it for capital. We did it for everything, all the way down to the beds and the recliners in the firehouses. And then the world flips, right? So no matter what our plan is, the plan's a plan until the plan changes. So we need to be moving forward and not be paralyzed. We've done our due diligence on everything we could do it on, and talking to Peters, talking to Bellamy, and that's what the board always asks for. Are we running it by our professionals and making sure we have comfort? We've done that, and then we've done it again, and then we've triple checked it just to make sure that we have the right answers and that we can move forward with as much knowledge as we have about where we sit today and where we're heading. The employees also allow us to take the frequent runs and put lesser pieces, less cost pieces, side by side on the medic runs and the high frequency runs. It lets us take the big rescue rigs out and not put the miles and the frequency on them. In turn, taking now it's what's $1 million engine and putting it on all the runs versus a nearly $2 million ladder. And that's pretty important too, because that gets into our QM, that gets into capital, that gets us into the more frequently we have to replace those, the less frequently we replace in QM. Now we get into the idea of financing again, and everything just gets more expensive again. So again, it's all about controlling costs in every facet we can control it. All right, so the need for the people is there. We have a vision statement of safeguarding those we serve. In order to safeguard those we serve, you don't just take your chess pieces and move around and go, look what we did. We built the infrastructure, we put the pieces there, then we put the people there to serve the community appropriately. I'm of the opinion that that is what the people want, and we've seen citizens step forward and support it. We see them step forward and give positive statements all the time whenever our members go out and serve them on EMS and fire runs. The professionalism and the training is no longer a concern. It's now just how do we get from point A to point B, and how do we receive a nod from you all to say, yeah, go ahead and move forward with the plan that we already had in place. And we've had it in place since that first year we came together. At this time, I'd like to move from people and get into the deployment of said people. Chief Porter will come up and go over some of the maps and the heat maps we've talked about. He can talk about the why. Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to build, and how does it work together?
So people, I can tell you our focus in that, just a quick brief on people in that. So I was one member that was hired, fired, and rehired years ago when I was getting on the department because their staffing plans and their projections weren't there. So I got a conditional offer and then got a phone call about a week and a half later telling me, no, that wasn't going to be the case. And then obviously the history is beyond that after that point. So it's near and dear to us to ensure that we're doing the right things for the right reasons as we move forward, right? So as we talk about the deployment of that, so obviously we know that we've built Station 5. So when we look at this map, this tells us where our stations are currently and how it kind of covers up. The yellow highlighted area around it is our township borders. You'll notice on this map that we've got two defined areas that were a little short in coverage, right? So a little bit to the southeast and a little bit to the northwest. Some of the northwest, I know previously before we built Station 5, there was talks of the Easton Gray project and different things along those lines, right? We need to get a station to the northwest. Still is not a high priority. It's on our radar. It's on our list of kind of knowing that area and watching it as it continues to grow. You'll see some heat bubbles and stuff out there, but it's really, those are singular houses that we go to a lot. And so when you think of it in that regards, it's not an overarching need for service out there. It's a couple individual situations. Does that warrant a station at this time? Yeah, maybe not, right? If it was there and available. And I'm going to show you some other maps here in a minute that'll help paint this picture a little bit clearer. But when you look at Station 2, so on the far east end, a couple different things to look at in that area. So one, you'll notice the overlap with Station 4. Quite a bit of distance in between there. You know, you'll notice the heat signatures in that. There's a fair amount of runs in those areas. We have some nursing homes. We have the hospitals. Or IU West and that's in that area. But if you go outside of the township to the east, you'll notice that we travel into Wayne Township and that quite a bit from that location as well. So not only are we overlapped with Station 4, we're overlapped with some of Wayne Township's areas as well. When we scroll to the next map, what you're going to see here is that proposed location that we have, Station 142, where we've purchased the property. What we can see here is that by moving that station, better puts our services in areas where they're needed and reduces those overlappages of coverage. You'll notice the gap with Station 144 becomes more appropriate. If you look between Station 141 and 144s, there is an overlap. You want that. We want to have that ability. We still want to get to those people when they call for services. You'll notice where Station 5 is, there's a fairly large overlap with Station 1 and there's a fairly large overlap with Station 3. When you look at where those overlaps are though, that's where our middle schools, our elementary schools, our daytime youth population and that is. So having an overlap there really isn't as detrimental. As we know, or as at least Mr. Blacker and Mr. Summers and that, when it originally came in and we talked about Station 5, we really were looking about a half mile east of that location. That would have changed a little bit of that look and a little bit of it. Some of it played into the property and that was available. Kind of with Station 4, same thing, right? As we had property available, does it fit into a notion of what we want? It does, but there's opportunity. So here you can see Station 2 moving south. On Ronald Reagan, we decreased that overlap. If you look into Wayne Township, we're also into an area that we're not overlapping with their stations near as much. Our focus is not outside of our township, but it still impacts the amount of time that those stations are going into those other areas. If we're going to be called into the other area, I'd rather go to an area that's underserved than I would looking at an area that's already adequately served, right? You'll notice there's down to the south is Station 123 in Plainfield. Plainfield does a good job. They have their stations set up. They cover pretty much to their border lines as it works. They do have a 4th station in play or that they're looking to build or working on getting built, but it's moving south. It's going to be down towards the Canby area is what they're really trying to get, right? So as we look at this map now, and this is just station locations with an engine overlay of 1.5 mile radius, you can see that we close in gaps that were there previously as we go. The next map is a driving time. This is with the current Station 142 location. The yellow is Station 145. So again, you can see that overlap into several of those areas. The big one though, like I said, when you look at Station 144 and Station 142, They really are duplicative in efforts in that regards. We flip to the next map. You'll see here by moving that south, we decrease the overlaps in areas and we cover our township pretty well. The other thing, when we look at the northwest corner, right? So when we put the drive times in there, you can see that we're not near as neglecting or as deficient in that area as it appears with just the circular 1.5 mile radius is.
The shading, make sure that I'm
Yes, sir.
looking at that correct. The lighter the shade, the more desirable of.
Those are the current locations. So the yellows are Station 145 being added in, and then Station 142 moving south is what that does for us. On the first one, obviously the overlaps were a little bit more dramatic. Station 142 didn't get highlighted, and I missed that when I sent Ashley the maps here. So Station 142, I'll just jump up real quick, right? So in this location, this outline here is what Station 142 is. So again, covering that entire area over top of that.
So it's just a matter of how the department or that station is servicing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that is their intended. So essentially it's about a 6-minute drive time, which when we look at national standards, and that is kind of what we base that of the initial dispatch as well as response times in that. So it gives us an idea of really what those stations could effectively cover.
Jason, just for full disclosure, the mapping software that we use, this is assuming normal driving is what the 6 minutes of drive time is. The mapping software that we use is not robust enough that it would take into consideration that it's an emergency vehicle. So the polygons might be a little bit bigger if it were to consider an emergency vehicle. I certainly don't have a degree in ArcGIS Pro to be able to do anything like that. But just full disclosure, so you understand what the 6-minute drive time is. This is just considered normal driving, is what the software that we use is basing these polygons off of.
So as we look at that, we talked about people, we talked about proper location and everything else along those lines. Why move Station 142? First and foremost, we can see the coverage area in that gets us from that perspective. The location of current 142s coming out at the point it does on Ronald Reagan, the topography of the road sets our apparatus up that we're increasing some maintenance cost in that by how it is. There's one way going north and south. There's limited east-west. This gives us a little bit more of an east-west, northwest, or a north-south operation in that. But like we said, any questions on the deployment models or anything or that? All right. So we're going to turn over to Chief Phipps in that, because beyond the people and beyond the response times in that, obviously money factors into a lot of these decisions.
How's it going, guys? As you said, 145 is going along great. Love to see you guys come out, take a look at it. When we talk about moving Station 142, we initially started looking at the remodel twos or rebuilding twos where it's set currently. We quickly found that it was not really feasible to do that. 2023 numbers, they came back for a remodel just under $6 million, and it really didn't give us what we wanted in space. Sorry. That was just remodeling the actual house bones where it's at, like not adding anything. To tear it down or to rebuild on current site there, they were $8.5 million, and again, this was 2020 or early 24. That did not count in removing the building or temporary housing of the individuals while we're building that, a year plus of place to put the engines and house everybody, and we don't have a good area to stick them and deploy appropriately. Purchasing the property down on Ronald Reagan sets us up very good on that end. We currently own it. I had Garmong, who is building Station 145. I talked with them. We did a high-level overview of what a new building would cost there. We came out at $9.8 million for that. So again, that was mid last year. So looking at 145s, we have a good structure. We know that's basically what we're going to build there on that property, maybe add a bay. And going through this, we can probably shave some stuff after, getting under construction. We've looked at some other stuff that we can probably shave a little bit off on there. The benefits, obviously, of that we can build a station, then close it down and move it. Then Station 2 has value. I mean, I have not got a firm cost like that. They said $1.5 million to $2 million, but people I reached out to, they said, we never sold a firehouse before. We don't know, right? So marketing for it. Location-wise, it is in a weird spot, but I mean, it is some acreage, additional lot on the side, and then the current building. So, you guys have any questions on that?
You got any questions?
We're also looking, like I've got a timeline now where it put us about April to be able to start with start rezoning. Obviously get a, lot approved, and we're going to do that again. I do like Garmong. I've had some preliminary talks with them. If we could, maybe even keep the same superintendent, because he's great. It's been a good relationship, and guys on top of it. So, anyhow on that.
Okay.
So, thank you.
So again, with what we're doing, I think it's important that each person off the staff come up here and speak into their expertise, and usually it's me trying to put into words conversations we've had. And you guys I want you all and I want the community to understand that everybody has their role and they're playing their role to the fullest. And all the expectations internally are being met, even whenever we're exploring outside opportunities. The biggest point I want to make to wrap this up is this. People are one thing. That's a need. That's 100% need with legacy costs, and we understand that. We need that in order to take care of our current infrastructure that we have in place now that's finishing up. The building of Station 2 is a separate need. That's already staffed. That's a second project. These aren't codependent. The 15 people that we want to hire next year, they're not codependent. All of these things are separate items. So if we don't do one, it doesn't mean we can't do the other. And I want everybody to make sure that's clear. We always talk about them together because everything kind of has its purpose, and there is a harmony that we need to meet in timing some of these things, but they're not codependent. Are there any questions on that?
Not that specifically, but you mentioned the 350K levy kind of deployment. What does that make an impact to property tax base rate? What is that? I mean, just that's something we'll probably need.
You guys went got it, I guess. I don't. Whenever we did that, whenever we
It
deployed
will,
it,
so
it will have
when
a
we
property
deployed
tax.
it last time, what, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah. whenever we had
And it went up a little bit, and so it'll go up a little bit more. I don't know the numbers exactly right now, but I can figure them out and get them to you. And,
The last time we deployed.
yeah,
levy, it was-
$350,000, it shouldn't be that
shouldn't
much.
be- Yeah, because the last time we did over 2 million.
Yeah,
Right. No. That's just more of a confident it'll be a question that's asked.
sure, I can get those numbers to you.
And then secondarily, with Garmong and that kind of stuff, if that's who showed, are they going to keep it kind of cost per square foot close to what it currently was?
Yeah, that's what he looked at there. The increase, our 145 now was 9,092,000. So basically 9.1. We're at 9.8 is what it is, a high level, but we have a lot of dirt. We have about 15,000 cubic yards of dirt to move on that property. Like I said, there are a few things we probably could, without going through construction on this one here, since we're going to try to build a sister of it. We're going to save on design costs and some of the other stuff like that. And there's a couple things we could change in there to save a little bit.
Well, that's what I go with the design cost.
Yeah.
There should be a lot.
And that was almost $500,000. I mean, there's going to be some still because of, it's a different lot and different utility. There's going to be some, right? But it's not going to be as grand as it was before.
Right. Yeah, okay. That's all I have.
Yeah, and so, deploying the levy is what it is. It's going to have an impact, and then sometimes that that impact's already lit and what we draw on lit, but moving forward, by the time all that's realized, that's when the new Senate bill comes in, they're gonna uncouple lit from that, and we'll be going to the county. One of the other points to make public is Chief Phipps and Chief Porter and myself sat around and talked about all this, is getting these things done now. It's gonna be a lot easier to go to the county and say, we're properly serving a community, we need to sustain it. And that's why we need this money. If we go in and say, hey, we put the brakes on, and we held on, now I need all this money for growth, there's gonna be a different outlook on that. Right now, you've heard the Speaker of the House made his comment, is it Houston? He said, people have to learn to do more with less. Well, we've been doing with less for a long time. And if we look around, the county and the departments in the surrounding areas have continued to do more with less for a long time because they've been paralyzed about growth. They held on, and then they held on until it was too late. Then their own towns changed structures and where money went and allocation to where now they're beating their head against the wall and can't move forward. We're not in that situation right now. And to go later and say, hey, I need this money for growth is different than saying I need this money to sustain services. And that's what we're doing, is we're trying to get to the vision statement of the department of safeguarding those we serve. We have to mean that. And in order to mean it, we have to start covering that square or that rectangle with proper coverage. And that's what we're trying to move toward and do with the drive times that you look at in front of you. So what I'm looking for from you, go ahead, Dave.
So looking even further out, I know you and I, we've talked a little bit about Station 1 and NDOT and the widening of Rockville Road. And, and I think that's probably hopefully far out, but or further out than some of these plans and everything. But knowing that may or it is going to be an issue at some point in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years, that doing a lot of these other things will help us to be able to manage and deal with the disruption or whatever that project made.
Yeah, and even getting ahead of that project, and let's say the project doesn't come to fruition. I don't know what they're gonna do federally. Right now, if we look at White River Township, they rebuilt the firehouse for them, essentially with federal dollars. Am I right in saying that?
Functional replacement program.
Yeah, so some of that may go away. Maybe that's not there. So what we have to start looking at is, and then what's been in the talks early on, I think may have been presented to the board before my time, is we need 6 stations to cover everything. I think early talks at Easton Gray is build a 6 station up there in the northwest. If we take ones and we move it northwest, you see the overlap, you see the rectangle yourself and the coverage of the drive. We can do this with 5 stations. It may take infrastructure change, but it won't necessarily take manpower change. And those are things we need to keep in mind too. As a crew, we've sat down and looked at all the different options, what we can do. This is step 1. Step 1B. Step 1 is hire the people and have them here. 1B is let's get 2s in a more strategic location. Later on, down the road, we can look at what do we do with the manpower, how do we move the pieces. If they widen it, we're gonna be forced to move it. Is it gonna be on our dime or theirs? I don't know. In the meantime, we can start looking for property, and I know talking to Mr. Blacker, property is never a bad idea, never a bad investment. We gotta make sure it's there, but we also don't want to deplete cash reserves and start affecting other things like bond ratings and TALs and all that. Can't be our own worst enemy and create a more expensive operation in spite of ourselves, but as the money allows and as opportunity is there, we do need to start looking at property and suitable property and locations for the proper coverage of our whole township.
And maybe to the point of doing more with less is planning in such a way that we can manage the growth of Washington Township and service it with 5 firehouses instead of 6.
Correct.
And avoid that necessity by properly planning
In place.
Right.
Yeah, it'll require investment, but investment in infrastructure is a little different than investment in people.
We have some meetings come up with Brian Cannon and talk about some stuff with their expansion and how they have control of what they're putting in, right? So there's talks and maybe some options that we put out there with them. I don't know if they exist or anything else that we can work with back and forth on that or other developers. So we're trying to work every option we can on that, but pay attention to that.
The big thing I'm looking at today is, in order to start moving and have comfort, is before we start spending money, is not spending money in spite of ourselves. So I'm just looking for a little bit of agreeability out of you all, that whenever I have these people come in and do a ladder climb, and I have these people that are on our list go through their physicals, and I'm not just blowing taxpayer dollars for the sake of blowing dollars, and I'm not getting people's hopes up for the sake of getting hopes up, that we believe in the idea of the mission, we understand the need, and we can start moving forward, at least on the front end, on personnel.
Questions, thoughts?
Personnel wise, with the lead time that we've got, I think we've got to. My concern is, boy, sure, we should do what their answer was, their fix was going to be. Then the rest of this is a no-brainer. I'm just not quite there yet on the building, but I understand the need. So it's not a matter of the need, it's just that hesitation, not knowing.
Yeah.
But, you know, the need, the information that you provided, I have no qualms about the need. It's just a matter of when is the proper time to pull the trigger on it.
Talk about Station 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was hitting, Jeff.
Station 6 or 1 relocated, whatever you want to call it. That is a question for another day, because that hasn't happened, that hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
The need for 2 is already here. So that's why that becomes something that we've got to address today rather than,
I mean, all we do is,
when
the longer we
East
put it
Gray or
off,
that area up there develops.
yeah, the longer we put 2s off, the more expensive it gets. That's what we already know. And what we're looking to do is capitalize on today's dollars and today's ideas, and the hesitation that we had as a group and in individual conversations was, will we default on it? Well, I mean, the professionals we hire and the attorney that we consult with the financial advice of Peters, is there a risk? There's always going to be risk. Even if they make a change, there's going to be risk. Are we comfortable moving forward knowing that we're not going to default on it based on the email that you have and the question, the precise question asked to Jeff Peters? And his answer is no. And then at the bottom closes with, there's such a slim chance, or there's a very slim chance, or however he ended it, whenever you go back to it. You guys have the email. But again, the longer we put it off, the more expensive it gets. And the more expensive it gets, we become our own worst enemy. This isn't about feathers and caps. This is about need for a community, and that's what the maps demonstrate, and that's what Chief Porter came up and explained. And, you know, the cost has already been wagged by our current providers, and that's what Chief Phipps came up to give you, and there's no other comfort I can give you all. But what I do know is there's some rhetoric out there that probably needs to stop, and it's coming from very few or a very small source to a large amount of people. And that rhetoric does go around Station 2. And that's one of those things that once you become detached from something you may have known in the past, you should probably stay detached from it unless you're going to come back and participate. So I don't want that to paralyze us.
The other thing to remember is obviously Station 2 is continuing to operate, and with the reasoning that we did do the investigation into the remodel in that station is in need of updates and repairs in that, and we've known that for quite some time. And that's where this plan becomes still the need today versus a later on, and it's for the current staff and that's there. It's the current operation. We continue to have maintenance costs in that that continue to grow, and that, so, you know, the longer that we go before we start looking at solutions to that problem, we're going to continue to have to fund those issues. So just something else that, you know, it's more dollars that gets spent. So.
The ceiling's hard decked there, and if you go in there, we've talked about the leak and sump pumps in the HVAC. That was before my time. Instead of now replacing the hard deck over and over and over, they just cut an area out, put a false ceiling in, because we're just gonna replace it over and over every time it rains, every time weather changes. So now that we know it, we just put drop ceiling in and a small square on the hard deck. And it's kind of become a running joke.
Other thoughts, questions? So you're looking for yes, proceed with the hiring, yes, proceed with the, I mean, the hiring.
I just want to know your guys' comfort. The hiring, I mean, we're going to move ahead.
Makes sense, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Station 142, to me, it's not a $9.5 million decision, it's a $3 million decision when you figure in the cost of that and that kind of thing.
Well, it's even less than that if you say, okay, there's value to the whole station.
Well, I was kind of figuring that
So,
out. Yeah,
so,
the
yeah,
land- the
I
land
mean, yeah,
purchase
so,
is-
yeah, it's a
Yeah, that number's getting smaller.
2 to 3, yeah, right, ever.
Yeah, I just figured the land
Yeah.
would be purchased, the other land would be sold, that's hopefully a wash, and then you're talking 6.5 or 7 kind of thing to a 9.5 or 9.8 kind of thing, so.
And the fact that you avoid displacement, if you do a remodel, you don't have answers to questions that you're gonna have to, if you did a remodel.
We've got solutions to the remodel. They're expensive. We've seen them done elsewhere. Chief Fitch, you want to speak to the property?
It was Fishers,
idea?
yeah, I think Fishers, what they did, they had built a temporary building for their apparatus, and they actually housed them in like a long stay hotel areas where they were with kitchenettes and stuff. There's a lot next to the movie theater. If we had to, we could put a temporary structure there to house the equipment and then bring in, on-site mobile home or whatever like that type of people and
Yes.
try to run out of it for a year plus, but it's not ideal. It's going to be a pretty good cost, right? And that's even if they would allow us. I mean, we have to look at solutions as we go along, right? If we had to do this, how would we do it? I think we're throwing good money after bad at a certain point, right? So that's the thing. Moving is
Mhm.
and
But again, it's, if you have these questions, we need to have a solution. So we tried to think of everything that can be talked about, so we had at least conversation.
I mean, I think it sounds like we're just fine, certainly from a staffing standpoint, obviously talking more about the building and that kind of stuff. I don't personally see an issue with that. I think just kind of defining what that deployment kind of looks like. I mean, I think that's appropriate to have a number and know exactly what that is before other people make up numbers with that and that kind of thing, or make assumptions and that kind of stuff, so. That's my thought.
Easy enough. So we'll keep that conversation going. Very good. And we'll start with the process on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You seem good.
As if I haven't beat you guys up enough today, I got one more. So the town hasn't come to me with the conversation of, hey, we need a decision. But we know that for years now, there's been ongoing conversations between the township and the town as to whether or not the township was going to move into the civic center once it gets built. Every now and again, I still get the, hey, what are you thinking? Hey, are you guys for sure doing this? Hey, are you guys, and that's not a Ryan answer. That's something that I certainly need the opinion of the board on. My concern is, again, going back to the unknown. What does the future look like? And the things that I do know for sure is right now today, the township employees that are here in this building, we don't pay rent because we own this building.
Right.
I have no idea what the rent in Easton Gray is going to be. I have no idea. We haven't had a conversation about utilities and internet and all of the things that would go with us moving to a different facility. Those conversations haven't happened. So I can't give you the number of what that would look like, but I know it's going to be more than nothing, which is what I'm paying for rent right now today. So I have concerns with that, but again, not a decision that should be made by me. This is a conversation that I wanted to have with the board. I would like to at least get your opinions. We don't have to make a hard, firm decision, yes or no today, because the town's not asking for a firm yes or no right now, but I would like at least to have the conversation publicly with you all, get any concerns that you all might have, because as they continue with that project, eventually a line is going to be drawn in the sand, and they're going to want to know, hey, is it you guys? If not, we need to start looking for another tenant.
So the brainstorming would be, what kind of staff would hypothetically be there and not being available here? I guess I look at the inefficiencies of being in two different buildings. Relatively close, but still.
That was one of the conversations we had very early on, when we talked about if we were to move the township over there and we were to have HR at East and Gray versus in this building. I asked the question, well, where's a fire truck going to park when they need to come see HR? Well, why do they have to come see HR in their fire truck? Well, that's what they do. Like we're on those trucks all the time. And every other employee has the right to go and meet with HR, whether they're on duty or off duty. We have to provide space for that, and just something that they hadn't considered, because they don't deal with the large trucks like that, right? Certainly that they weren't trying to slide anything. It just was, hadn't been considered to that point. But yeah, that is one of the conversations, just an easy example that we've had, where we talk about right here, staff is routinely in and out of this building, both parks and fire, have access to this. Would we still have access over there? Yes. Would it be more efficient or less efficient for any of our staff? Hard to say. I lean towards less, but I can't say for sure.
I would too.
Yeah, because it's not like we could vacate this facility and move everything over there, right?
Yeah.
There's no room for fire to go with us. Fire would move in here, and that's another concern that I have. One of the things that I've mentioned to the town manager and any of the town council members that I've spoken with throughout this process is there, before we can have a serious conversation, is I need to have a discussion about what the rent is going to be, and then we need to have a discussion about a long-term lease, because I know that as soon as the township vacates this building, fire is going to absorb the space. And it would be horribly inefficient and horribly unfair to move out of this building and then decide a few years later that, this isn't working out, let's move everything back. Not a business I want to get in of moving offices back and forth. We need to, again, that's why I want to have a good, as informed as we can decision. And again, we're talking about a lot of things that are still unknown, but I wanted to have this topic or this conversation to at least bring this topic up so we can try to get an idea on, hey, what information do we need to know before we get to that firm? Yes, we can, or no, we're not comfortable doing that. So
I think the dollars and cents are going to pretty much answer it. There's some inefficiencies by physically being over there. They're going to probably counter with, yes, but we're putting all municipal government offices in the township in one location. That's, that may be true, but it's still at what cost?
yeah, the idea of having all of the, or many of the government entities there together is a good thought. The cost versus benefit of that, where does that outweigh the inefficiencies that we might create somewhere else? I don't know that answer.
And if you look at it in the bigger picture, you still have all the county functions that are in Danville, so it's not everything's going to be together. There would be just, I guess, the township, school, and town, I guess, could potentially be together, but then it really isn't, because fire would still be kind of managed here. And like you said,
Parks is still separate from all of us now anyway.
Right,
so.
right. And the town even, they're still going to have a presence at the former town hall, and the police station is sitting where it sits now. They're not looking at building a new police station. So that, I don't see that value. And I think it adds too much cost. And we've got, without adding, any serious benefit. And all these conversations we've already had today in terms of the challenges with Senate Bill 1 and the future, and we've got bigger issues to deal with, and sort of making a decision like that just, to me, doesn't make sense. Just really doesn't at all.
Yeah, I think you can confirm your decision, but you know what the answer is going to be based upon what you know right now.
Right.
If I'm, all the rent per square foot is just gonna confirm the same decision that we can come to today, I think.
Yeah, same thing. It's not centralizing government. One, B, I don't know who goes in to one building and wants to speak with fire and everybody like in the parks. And there's some reason, I don't know what reason there is to have everybody together. I mean, it's not going to help necessarily communication. The cost worried me. We're paying lease on that. We have land here. We could easily add on to this building. Even if it was $500 a square foot to build, that's probably long-term cheaper than it is to lease something that's not necessarily ours. So, and $500 a square foot is probably high, given that most of the infrastructure is probably here when you figure the expensive stuff from a MEP standpoint. So it's kind of, if that was the plan, that should have been talked about before a building was planned or laid out. I don't necessarily get it. So I just think it's a waste of resources, both our time and certainly dollars and tax dollars and stuff, just to, I don't know what it gains anybody. That's maybe too direct, but it's just a waste.
Certainly.
Sorry.
And I guess in our earlier conversation too about relocating Station 1 and providing better services to the Northwest and everything, I guess the part 2 of our answer back to the town is, no, this doesn't, from an administrative standpoint, this doesn't work for us, but we certainly could use your help once conversations with NDOT and all these things and our ability to better serve the future growth of Avon, there probably could really be very helpful to us in terms of helping find that location of a relo of Station 1.
Yeah, and that's the one area that I am torn. Since I've been in office, I feel like we have, I can't say improved because I wasn't here before, but we have a good working relationship with the town now. I have regular positive and constructive conversations with not only the town manager, but with different town council members who, again, we can bounce ideas off of each other, share information. Again, the relationship that if we didn't have before, maybe we should have, because we're getting things done as the township and as the town, we're able to do that. And so that the one part of me that says, oh, it would be great to be over there with them, because just like right now, I can go down the hallway and have constructive conversation with our fire administration. Maybe I could do that with the town, and there could be some benefit to that. But the concerns that I have over finances and the inconveniences, I think far outweigh that, because it's just as easy for me to pick up the phone and call any one of those individuals and have the same dialogue that way, so.
Mm-hmm.
But with that certainly helps, like I said, give me a much better opinion on where we were at. I knew, again, my own personal concerns and opinion, certainly wanted to have that conversation with you all as well. So that way, moving forward, as I do have any more conversations with the town, I've got a little better understanding of, hey, this is where we're at with what we know right now today. So, if I hear anything different, if there's any more information that comes out, I can certainly keep you in the loop. But as it sits right now, doesn't sound like any of us are super excited about that opportunity or even really comfortable at all to maybe want to pull the trigger to make that move. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Super excited.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation. That was what I was looking for, so thank you.
If you would have left, we would not have let you back in, even though you're.
I
the
understand.
boss. We just confirmed.
Yeah, I heard you.
All right, any public comment or wishes to be heard?
So I do want to add one thing. You asked about the increase there, the additional levy. According to Peters in the financial plan, it's about a 1 cent increase for the fire levy itself. Overall, the total levy will go up about 3 cents because of the bond for 145. So.
Okay, thank you. That
Yep.
helps. Any public comment or wishes to be heard?
So are we, if you want us to go ahead and get costs, we can start doing that on the infrastructure part. Get costs of tubes.
Oh, twos. Yeah. And I would guess that we should have a really good and accurate per square foot number. I would hold Garmont to that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm pretty adamant right now. Construction costs are off the charts.
Yes.
It's the only thing that's way outside the normal, and it's not because of,
Not the
if I hear another thing about tariffs or other kind of crap, that it has nothing to do with that. It has 100% to do with labor. I understand that. The largest building projects in the Midwest are occurring right now, but they know how to do this. They know what the costs are. There should be significantly less cost in design, and the per square foot fee should not be increasing. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't mean to be a jerk about it, but it's just, there's a lot.
You dabble in that on.
Yeah.
And I'm,
Yeah.
we're not, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So that's, I mean, I'm pretty direct. Somebody's making a lot of money and it's on the backs of other people, so.
We, what I have to say is we have a Bob. We're good. Like, we'll figure that out.
Okay.
I know that,
Chief has done a good job as far as.
Say that they, I mean, part of their presentation should be to compare this is what your square foot cost was before and it is now and that kind of thing, so.
It's been good having them and saving the money on road trip for sure.
Yeah.
And then also bring them in a little bit earlier. Again, now that we've already been through one, right, we're gonna have a little bit more control of, hey, this was an excess, let's back this off, let's wait a cost save here and do some of that stuff.
Right. And they should know whose subs they can lean on
They
and
do.
press on that.
They do. Yeah, that's what I said. We're noticing some stuff there. Again, the only nuances we can't control are like what's underground, how tight utilities. You know, we had a couple $100,000 with WCCD, right? After it was all figured out, we actually didn't need to spend because there was a line that they didn't have identified, right? But I think we're still at WCCD there. But anyhow, still, it's just,
Right.
you know, anyways, some of those things, I get that. But yeah, the actual building itself, we should have a pretty good and know those things. So.
Okay, any other public comment we should hear?
I'd like to talk about tariffs for it.
Yeah. That's kind of like fuel surcharges we're still paying for.
Yeah.
Fuel prices have dropped.
You want me to show you the apparatus prices?
No, yeah, that's.
You
a whole
mentioned
other-
buildings, it's not the only thing.
Oh, I
that's
know, there's a lot of things being extorted. So anyways, that's a whole other meeting. Okay, now we've seen a motion to adjourn.
So, go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 4:58.